not to make a mess in the house, I'm going to go outside and scale and fillet this bluegill and compare it to the red snapper that I actually just purchased from the fish market. So today's catch and cook is actually going to be a catch, cook, buy, compare. So what I'm doing is I actually went out, as you can see, and caught fish out of my own pond. I caught a bluegill out of my own pond. And normally what I do with the bluegill is I fry it. I butterfly it, put flour and cornmeal, crushed black pepper, and fry it. This time I am going to go gourmet style and cook and compare it to red snapper. I can't even remember the last time I actually went to a fish market and purchased fish. And I didn't realize how much fish actually costs nowadays. But I went, bought this red snapper, $35 a pound for this red snapper. $35 a pound. What I have here is 0.42. So not even a half a pound. And that fish costs $14.70. So here's the bluegill. This is one. I actually probably should have caught two just so that the weight and everything would be the same. But this is one bluegill, and you can see in here that the flesh isn't bad looking at all. I mean, people really like bluegill a lot. Whoever had bluegill always say that bluegill tastes real good. But you can see the flesh in here. I filleted it. I deboned it so it has actually the same situation that this red snapper has. This is the red snapper. Saltwater fish. The bluegill's a freshwater fish. The flesh is a little bit whiter. Again, it's deboned. People love red snapper. Same thing. $14.70. Let's do a comparison and cook it gourmet style and see which one tastes better. What I'm going to do is pretty simple. I'm going to take the bluegill and the red snapper. I'm going to lightly season it with some herbs, and then I'm going to do a mixture of soy sauce and duck sauce as it's broiling. So I'm going to lightly season it with the herbs. And I actually am going to do just the bottom. Top side, I'm going to leave the skin on it. And we're actually going to broil this skin side up. What I'll do is I take the duck sauce. Put the duck sauce in this bowl. And I just pre-mix it. And then I mix in the soy sauce. And I do it pretty much half and half. And then I mix that soy sauce and duck sauce up together. Let that sit for a little while. And I will take my pan. I rub olive oil in my pan. Help keep it from sticking. I'm gonna take the red snapper, skin side up, place it in the first pan. Again, rub that olive oil in this pan and take my bluegill, skin side up, and place it also in the pan. So now we have the red snapper. Store-bought. Since we're in New Jersey, I cannot catch red snapper. But I thought I would just compare a store-bought fish to a freshwater, fresh-caught fish. So halfway through the broiling, brought the fish out, and I am going to cover it in the duck sauce, soy sauce mixture. Raise it up to the top rack and then broil it a little bit longer until the soy sauce and duck sauce starts to bubble. My disclaimer here is I am no chef, I'm actually just a fisherman. But I've had this red snapper glazed in the soy sauce, duck sauce mixture before. And it was very good, very tasty. So that's why I thought I'll try to do this comparison that way. Because I know I really like the soy sauce, duck sauce mixture under the broiler. So I raised the rack up in the oven, and it's still on mini broil, and we'll let it cook just a little bit longer. It actually broiled in the oven for about 15 minutes, and this may take about another 10 minutes on this rack. So now you can see that it's bubbling under that broiler. That nice bubble, that nice little sizzle. Let's see which is going to taste the best. Is it worth $35 a pound for that red snapper? Or is that freshly caught bluegill going to be good enough? So I just brought it from under the broiler, and I'm getting ready to plate it up. It's the red snapper and the freshwater bluegill. Okay, here we go. Bluegill versus red snapper. Catch and cook. I think I will try the red snapper first. The meat's very nice and white. I don't know if it matters if the meat's white or not, but it's really nice looking white meat. I've had plenty of fish. Sometimes the flesh is white, sometimes it's not, and it tastes just as good as any grouper or snapper that I've had. One of my favorites, wahoo, and it's not the whitest flesh. Of course, this red snapper is delicious. There was no doubt in my mind that it would not be delicious. It's very good. Texture is very good. I think the guy in the fish market said this red snapper had came in 2 days prior to this purchase. So now I am going to go to the bluegill. The flesh is, you can't really see it because of the seasoning, but the flesh is actually white. It's not as thick as the snapper. So it's a little harder to see the white but the flesh in that bluegill actually is white. The texture of the bluegill is that it's a little crunchier than the snapper, and I guess because it's thinner, it got a little bit crunchier. And the taste, also a very good fish. The taste is still really good. I'm gonna do the red snapper again. Again, the red snapper is very good, and the bluegill is really good. The bluegill lets the seasoning, the sauce, actually is a little bit more overpowering in the bluegill than in the red snapper. I could actually taste the seasoning more in the bluegill than in the red snapper. But overall, I think it's really hard to decide which one I actually like better. I like the little crunch and the little, the fact that the seasoning comes out more in the bluegill and that it has a little bit of a crunch to it. I think the red snapper flesh is really, really good because it's a little thicker and a little denser. If I had to choose, if I had to choose, it's actually really hard to tell. They both have actually a different taste sensation. They both have a different taste sensation. I think don't shoot me for this, but I actually think I prefer the bluegill over the red snapper in this particular dish. Just because the bluegill has the flavor and the texture of that little bit of a crunch that I actually prefer, that I like. Not that the red snapper is not good. The red snapper is very good. I've had red snapper that I've caught the next day, and I actually think that the flavor is stronger. Like, it tastes better when I've caught the red snapper and cooked it the same with the next day. That might have something to do with it. I'm not 100% sure. But actually later on I might just go and catch some snapper and try to taste again and see what we can see what the outcome would be. But today I think I prefer the freshly caught bluegill over the $14.70 half a pound, the $35 a pound red snapper. My preferred is the bluegill. Again, thanks for watching. The Dreaded Fisherman, catch and cook.